It's the night of September 26, 1983. Deep beneath Moscow, in a secret command bunker known as Serpukhov 15, one man sits surrounded by machines. Screens, switches, the quiet hum of the Soviet early warning system. Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov watches the monitors with tired eyes. He's been on duty for hours. The air is heavy, thick with tension. And then, a piercing alarm. On the main screen, a single word flashes in red. Launch! Petrov's heart freezes. The satellite system reports that an American nuclear missile has been launched, heading straight toward the Soviet Union. He looks around. Everyone is silent. He can almost hear his own heartbeat. This can't be real, he thinks. No one would start a war with just one missile, right? Still, the clock is ticking. If this is real, he has less than 20 minutes before impact, and the decision he makes next will determine the fate of the world. The year is 1983. The world stands on edge. The Cold War is at its peak. The United States and the Soviet Union are locked in a deadly race, each holding enough nuclear weapons to erase humanity several times over every day. Politicians talk of deterrence. But behind that word lies a simple truth. Both sides live in constant fear. One mistake, one false alarm, and the world could end in under half an hour. Earlier that month, the Soviets shot down a Korean passenger plane they thought was a spy aircraft. Tensions are higher than ever. Every soldier, every officer knows one wrong signal and millions will die. In the middle of this storm sits Stanislav Petrov, a quiet man who never imagined that he would be the one to decide if the world lives or burns. Minutes pass. Petrov watches the blinking red light on the console. The room feels smaller with every second. Then another alarm, and another. Now the screen shows 5 nuclear missiles launched from the United States, all heading toward the Soviet Union. The control room erupts in chaos. Phones ring, officers shout, but no one dares to act before Petrov gives the order. If he reports the alert as real, the Soviet High Command will immediately respond with hundreds of nuclear missiles. In less than half an hour, the world will be ashes. Petrov's hands tremble slightly. He stares at the screen. 5 missiles? That makes no sense. If America wanted to start a war, they'd launch everything. He takes a deep breath. Every instinct screams at him to follow protocol, but something deep inside whispers, "Don't trust the machine." He looks at his men, their faces pale, their eyes fixed on him. He knows one word from him can end civilization. If I'm wrong, we all die, he thinks. But if I'm right, I'll be saving everyone and no one will ever know. The clock is ticking. Sirens echo through the bunker. The red light keeps flashing. Every screen screams, "Missile attack confirmed." Petrov's training tells him exactly what to do. Report immediately. If he hesitates and the missiles are real, millions of people will die without warning. If he acts and the system is wrong, millions will die for nothing. He closes his eyes for a moment, trying to silence the noise around him. Think, Stanislav, think. He runs through the data again. The trajectory, the radar readings, the satellite feed, nothing adds up. No ground radar has confirmed a single missile. Only the satellite system. A system built by humans, and humans make mistakes. What if it's the sun? What if the sensors caught glare from the clouds? The thought flashes through his mind. The officers stare at him frozen. Someone whispers, "Comrade, What are your orders? Petrov looks up. His voice is calm, but his heart is pounding. Reported as a malfunction, he says quietly. Silence fills the room. In that instant, he breaks military protocol and possibly saves the planet. No one in the room knows it yet, but in that moment, he stops World War III. He exhales slowly, staring at the blinking lights. If I'm wrong, he thinks, this is the end of everything. Then he waits. Minute after minute, no explosions, no fire, only silence. The minutes feel like hours. Every second stretches endlessly as Petrov waits for confirmation. No missile impact, no radar signal, nothing. Then, finally, a voice on the radio. Comrade Petrov, no explosions detected. All systems clear. The room exhales as one. The tension breaks like a wave. Men collapse into their chairs, wiping sweat from their faces. But Petrov just sits still, silent, staring at the console that almost ended the world. Hours later, the investigation begins. Engineers trace the cause of the alert. The system had mistaken the reflection of sunlight on high-altitude clouds for missile launches. A simple cosmic coincidence. Mistaken for the start of nuclear war. Petrov had trusted his instinct over the machine, and that instinct had saved billions. But there were no medals, no headlines. The incident remained secret for years, buried under classified reports and silence. No one will believe it, he thought. No one will even know. Still, he knew. He had faced the end of the world and chosen to disobey it. Years passed. The Cold War ended, but the story of that night remained hidden, buried in Soviet archives. Stanislav Petrov retired quietly, living in a small apartment near Moscow. No medals, no recognition, just the weight of knowing that for one night he held the fate of the world in his hands. He rarely spoke about it. When journalists later found him, decades after the event, he said simply, "I was just doing my job. I didn't want to be wrong." But those who heard his story knew the truth. He wasn't just doing his job. He had saved humanity. He received a few awards years later, from foreign countries not his own. But the world moved on, and Petrov faded into quiet obscurity. He passed away in 2017. No global news coverage, no ceremonies. Just a few articles online, remembering a man who once stopped the unthinkable. History, one journalist wrote, rarely remembers those who save us, only those who destroy. Today, we live under the same sky that almost burned that night. Millions of lives, families, cities, all still here because one man chose to think. Instead of obey, Stanislav Petrov never saw himself as a hero. But in a world built on fear, he chose reason. In a system ruled by machines, he chose humanity. One decision, made in silence, in a dark room by a single human being, changed everything. He reminded us that courage isn't loud. It doesn't wear medals. Sometimes it just says no. Because of that choice, the sun rose again the next morning, and the world kept turning. Remember his name, not for what he did, but for what he refused to do. Pause. This is not just a story about the past. It's a reminder that the fate of the world can depend on one calm voice in a room full of alarms. Enjoyed the video? Subscribe for more untold stories of humanity and leave a comment. I read every single one.